For centuries, down from dim and fabled Arabian origins, the thoroughbred horse has been bred and trained to do one thing: run with speed and endurance. From a standing start, the best of them can cover 2 furlongs in nearly 20 seconds, or can run 1.5 miles in well under 2.5 minutes. They are athletes. They know, they anticipate, even as the colors and saddles go on them, what is coming. Trial by peer. The thoroughbred is among the world's precision machines, intricate and highly tuned, delicate and fragile on sliver-thin cannons and pasterns, proud and powerful. He is part juggernaut, part ballet dancer, and when in full stride, a complex miracle of motion. At the starting gate, the jockey has made sure his horse is standing with all 4 legs planted squarely beneath him. As the doors start to swing open, the horse has prepared himself by flexing his knees and hocks and by coiling and compacting himself, causing his head and body to drop some 12 inches. He breaks from his toes, getting a literal toe hold on the racing surface. He comes up and out of the gate, his rear legs propelling and his forelegs and body pulling. The forelegs immediately go into one lead or the other, right or left, the stride lengthening as the animal gathers momentum. The rear legs push off simultaneously for several strides. Ideally, they will gradually settle into the lead established by the forelegs. Horses rarely slip or stumble on turf or in the mud, where their hooves are in instant contact with the actual racing surface, unlike on dirt, where there is a top cushion to be penetrated. On dirt tracks, there is a stumbling bar behind the rear legs to prevent slippage in the starting gate. In the crucial first few yards before the horse has attained his fully lengthened stride, the fore and rear hooves are in repeatedly close proximity. That and the fact of the natural bunching of the field just out of the gate render a horse vulnerable to the potential disaster of a stumble. Stumbling can, of course, happen at the very outset. Here, and watch the horse in green blinkers, is a case of an animal's not standing properly in the gate. He stumbles leaving the gate and goes down. It's in recovering from such a stumble that a horse can grab his forequarters with his rear hooves. But here the horse recovers successfully and continues the race. The stride has begun, naturally, with the first movement out of the gate. The rear leg's primary role is to launch the horse forward. The forelegs absorb most of the shock of concussion. Additionally, those cannons and pasterns must sustain the majority of the horse's and jockey's combined weights, in most cases, a total of about half a ton. And when that half ton gets into high gear, the animal's legs whirl to the naked eye or at normal film speed. They blur under his body like the spokes of a wheel. The grace, seemingly mechanical if all is going well, is breathtaking. The muscles in the body of the horse and the muscles of his forearms and gaskins continually contract and relax, contract and relax. And so, the thoroughbred moves. That movement is disciplined and rhythmical. The metronomes of the rhythm are the leads, the repeated cycles of hoof placement. A left lead starts with the right rear leg and continues left rear, right fore, left fore. Right rear, right fore, left fore. And this chestnut is on a right lead. Starting with the left rear and moving the right rear, left fore, and right fore. And again, left rear, left fore, right fore. At any given point in a race, different horses may be on different leads. Here, the gray is on a left lead, while the two horses next to him are right-leaded. A cross lead is just what the term implies, a haywiring of the stride rhythm. A horse will sometimes leave the gate with his rear legs in one lead and his forelegs in the other. Here, we find a cross pattern of right rear, left fore, right fore. If a horse doesn't seem to be getting himself out of a cross-lead problem, the jockey can help by a weight shift, by going briefly to the whip on one side or the other, or by working the bit. A sustained lead creates fatigue. All the stress is being carried by the same muscles in the same punishing way, stride after unvarying stride. No horse runs an entire race on the same lead. The best horses, like the best athletes of any sport, make their necessary movements seem effortless. Here in the stretch, a pretty fair thoroughbred eases the strain by switching leads. Right rear, right fore, left fore, and again, and change. All with supreme coordination, smooth, economical, imperceptible. And this gray horse will give us another view of a lead change, from right to left. leads are changed by a horse's raising his forelegs and checking their previous pattern, planting instead the opposite foreleg first. The rear legs change accordingly the next stride. In American flat racing, with its counterclockwise flow around the track, all turns are to the left. Hence, most U.S. horses have better developed left leads than right. Coming out of the final turn, then, many horses will change to a right lead as they straighten for home, again easing the muscle fatigue as they gather their last reserves for the finish. And by the finish, and afterward, the fatigue is even more acute. When a horse trained for a given distance gives that distance, full out, he has given everything. As he pulls up past the wire, he often changes leads repeatedly, again compensating for strain as well as to help in the braking process. Most flat races are run on dirt because it's hard to maintain turf courses in prime racing shape day after day, and because rain, which can turn dirt courses to slop, is happily only periodic. On a dirt course, a horse's hoof enters the 3-inch deep overcushion at a 45-degree angle, causing the cushion to mushroom as the hoof slides forward and down. Before impact, the components of the foreleg are relaxed, but when the bottom of the hoof hits the solid base, the fetlock drops, tightening the suspensory ligament and the flexor tendons. When the tendons and the suspensory are taut, the shock wave, the inevitable every stride shock wave, is sent up and through the entire leg. And against most physiological odds, the jolting impact is somehow absorbed. Foreleg relaxed, ligament and tendons taut. The rear legs' fetlocks drop down farther than those of the forelegs and so take even more of a beating. This phenomenon, called running down, often requires rear leg bandaging to prevent serious injury. If the dirt cushion is deeper than 3 inches, the course can become a so-called breakaway track. Horses' hooves can tend to slip or slew as they penetrate, and there is potential danger. If the cushion is shallower than 3 inches, there is not enough of a protective layer over the course's hard clay base. The best racing surface for a thoroughbred is turf. A horse running on good old natural grass all but bounces off the surface. His hooves don't sink into an overcushion and slide forward. And since there is no cushion, his rear legs don't run down as readily. With his springy, bouncing action, the thoroughbred's turf stride is his optimum stride. A horse running in mud or slop seems to place his feet squarely into the mire, and he doesn't slip or slide, as is commonly supposed. But since the normal dirt cushion has been transformed into a non-cushioning soup, the thoroughbred's hooves hit the base much harder than on any other type of racing surface. The intensified impact shock is apparent in every stride. Horses with small, cupped hooves, which make for faster penetration down to the base, have the best footing on sloppy tracks. Generally speaking, a horse running in slop has a shorter stride. In uneven or on uncertain footing, a horse naturally tends to stride a bit shorter. depth of the track varies most in the mud, and a muddy track is tremendously uneven, some portions being merely muddy, while others are deep slop. The variance can occur not only from, say, furlong to furlong, but from step to step, as in this graphic sequence. Watch the forelegs. No splash. Splash. It takes a special breed within this highly special breed to run with confidence on an off-track. As if all of that isn't enough, a horse running in mud can take a lot of that racing surface smack in the face and smack in the eyes. But the horse has a third eyelid that acts like a windshield wiper. This membrane comes in from the inner corner of the eye. The horse activates it by pulling the eyeball in, causing the lid to protrude and brush across the eyeball. A horse takes a complete breath each time he takes a stride. He exhales as his forelegs hit the ground. He inhales when the forelegs are in the air. Breathing action is pretty much the same from horse to horse. The stride is not. Most oddities of stride are directly traceable to abnormalities in conformation. Not all conformation faults will cause a horse to run poorly or to break down, but at the very least they can make for instructive object lessons. Here in the foreground is a horse that strikes its own elbow. The problem stems from the animals having a long pastern and a fetlock that overflexes. Front bandages can help correct the situation since they tend to restrict the flexion of the fetlock joint. But, hyperflexion or no, this chestnut seems to be running quite well, thank you. Here we have a knock-kneed horse, one with no front action. The horse swings his front legs out in every stride. Still, he does manage to avoid hitting himself in the hind legs. Working out here is one sore horse. He is holding his head and neck stiff and high, trying to compensate for his sore forelegs. He's trying to throw more of his weight, and the jockey's, onto the rear legs. And those rear legs are doing their part in the compensation process, too. See how far up and under him they come with every stride? This horse is, well, just a poorly coordinated athlete. His legs look to be made of high-quality rubber, don't they, going off in 4 different directions. Again, part of the problem comes from hyperflexed fetlocks. The net result is a stride of less than championship caliber. stride of a champion is distinctive in that every particle of the animal is straining to make that stride a model of efficiency and effectiveness, and succeeds in doing so. Secretariat's stride is different from most thoroughbreds because he makes supreme use of his head and neck. As his forelegs hit the racing surface, its head and neck become positive weapons of thrust, dropping down and lengthening the stride. And then they pull up strongly, helping to lift the forebody up and into a longer arc of attack. In the 1973 Marlboro Cup, Secretariat overtook stablemate Riva Ridge at the quarter pole. And although they're on the same lead and are striding in unison, it was Secretariat's longer stride, the stride of a champion, that brought him even and then carried him on and away, a clear winner. Slow-motion film is all but definitive proof that every muscle in the horse's body is absolutely essential to locomotion. The muscles in the neck and shoulders are every bit as important as those in the forearms and gaskins in creating the phenomenon of the thoroughbred at racing speed. Each muscle contracts and relaxes by rhythmic reflex action. Each helps move a part of the skeleton, and each helps move the total. Again, the neck, the shoulders, the chest, the forearms, the abdomen, the hindquarters. No muscle is dormant. The thoroughbred got its start on the sandy wastes of Arabia, and there are many legends about the first breeding system. One has it that a herd of horses had been standing all day in the sun. They were finally turned loose inside of water, and of course they all ran toward it. Then a trumpeter blew a battle call. Most of the herd went on, but 2 or 3 stallions and 5 mares turned obediently back. And from these were bred the 5 great Arabian families. And each of the bodies of these, their linear and spiritual descendants, is concentrated into an intricate muscular task force whose goal is as simple as it is awesome: speed and stamina. When a horse finishes a race, and sometimes before, his muscles have given it all, and they have lost their tone. By this time, all the weight of the animal is borne by the suspensory apparatus and flexor tendons, and on the leg bones themselves. The muscles are all but quivering with fatigue. They sag, and so does the horse, the way any athlete sags after the strain of competition. It is late afternoon, a time of lengthening shadows, a time for a rest well earned. The world of the thoroughbred, like any of life's truly fascinating and exhilarating provinces, is filled with endless paradox. The Dresden China support for heavyweight brawn. The eon of instinct dovetailing with a few short months of computer-age training. And on any balmy, cloudless afternoon, the flash of lightning and the roll of thunder.